Hello and a very warm welcome to all News9 viewers. I'm Neha Bhan. Let's take a look at some of the top stories of this hour. We begin with controversial BJP MLA-elect Raja Singh voiced his opposition to the appointment of controversial AIMIM leader Akbaruddin Owaisi as the Pro-tem Speaker of the Telangana Assembly. He threatened that he and other BJP MLAs would not participate in the oath-taking ceremony if Owaisi were to preside over the proceedings.
बहुत ही दुर्भाग्य की बात है, नई सरकार, नया कांग्रेस का मुख्यमंत्री रेवंत रेड्डी बनने के बाद में कांग्रेस का असली चेहरा सामने आया है। हर बार रेवंत रेड्डी ये कमेंट करते थे कि बीजेपी एमआईएम बीआरएस एक है। तो आज तेलंगाना की जनता को पता चल गया है कि कौन किसके साथ है, कौन कौन कब कहां पर मिला है। और आज अकबरुद्दीन ओवैसी को, जो कि एमआईएम का विधायक है, उनको प्रोटेम स्पीकर बनाया गया। तो ऐसे व्यक्ति के सामने हम शपथ नहीं लेंगे जो 15 मिनट में 100 करोड़ हिंदुओं को मारने की बात करता है। ऐसे व्यक्ति के सामने हम शपथ नहीं लेंगे जो गौ मांस खाने के लिए हमें प्रेरित करता है, क्योंकि गाय हम सबकी माता है। तो हम कल बॉयकॉट करेंगे और अकबरुद्दीन ओवैसी के सामने हम शपथ ग्रहण समारोह में हम सम्मिलित नहीं होंगे। नेक्स्ट डे जो नया स्पीकर जो तेलंगाना राज्य का जो बनेगा, उनके चैम्बर में हम लोग जाकर शपथ ग्रहण समारोह करेंगे।
The newly elected MLAs of Telangana are scheduled to take the oath during the first session of the Legislative Assembly scheduled for today. Meanwhile, Telangana BJP Chief G. Kishan Reddy, while reacting on the development, said BJP MLAs will boycott taking oath before this Pro-tem Speaker, referring to Akbaruddin Owaisi. Listen in.
भारतीय जनता पार्टी तेलंगाना स्टेट ने तय किया है जो प्रोटेम स्पीकर का अपॉइंटमेंट जो अकबरुद्दीन को नियुक्त किया गया, हम उसको खिलाफ कर रहे, प्रोटेस्ट भी कर रहे, क्योंकि सीनियर एमएलए है, उनको छोड़कर कांग्रेस पार्टी ने मजलिस पार्टी का व्यक्ति को प्रोटेम स्पीकर का अपॉइंटमेंट करना, वो विधानसभा का जो नियम है, परंपरा है, ये परंपरा के खिलाफ है। ये बहुत सीनियर एमएलएस को अपमान भी है। इसलिए हम चाहते हैं जो प्रोटेम स्पीकर जो मजलिस पार्टी का इलीगली अपॉइंट हुआ है, परंपरा के खिलाफ अपॉइंट हुआ है, उनके समक्ष में हमारे एमएलएस ओथ नहीं लेंगे।
Now, both Raja Singh and Akbaruddin Owaisi are known for their controversial statements. Raja Singh had spent 76 days in prison in 2022 for allegedly stoking communal tensions in the city, with a controversial video released in August 2022. Now, the police cited 104 criminal cases against him, including 18 communal cases. On the other side, Owaisi is known for making hateful speeches aimed at Hindus and also targeting Hindu gods. Governor Tamilisai Soundarajan picked Akbaruddin as the Pro-tem Speaker as he is the senior most legislator in the House. Raja Singh's protest is only symbolic since Akbaruddin will hold the post only for Saturday. The Speaker will be chosen right after that. Let's tell you more about the office and the role of Pro-tem Speaker. Now, who is a Pro-tem Speaker? A temporary Speaker appointed to administer oath and conduct business is chosen in agreement with members of the House. Senior most member of the House is usually selected for the post. The main duty is to administer oath of office to new members. Also enables the House to elect the new Speaker, and once the new Speaker is elected, office of the Pro-tem Speaker ceases to exist. Combat drug smuggling in the northeastern by the seizure of 8.94 kilogram of heroin valued at 62.58 crore rupees in the international officers intercepted the suspect vehicle, a Mahindra Bolero, on the Kohi concealed within the front door panel and dashboard. Act 1985. The NIA has been carrying out extensive investigations to foil the terrorist outfit's plans to spread terror and violence in India. Raided 41 locations, searched 1 in Karnataka, 2 in Pune, about 31 in Thane rural, 9 locations in Thane city and Mira Bhayandar. Now, the National Investigation Agency on Saturday arrested conspiracy case. The anti-terror agency sleuths raided these locations in close coordination who had pledged to the violent extremist ideology of proscribed terrorist organizations, including Al-Qaeda and ISIS, and had formed a terrorist gang. The main objective of ISIS is to establish a caliphate by indulging in terrorist activities across different countries in the world. The Income Tax Department has seized close to 300 crore rupees in simultaneous raids conducted at 25 locations across Odisha and Jharkhand linked to Congress Rajya Sabha MP Dheeraj Sahu. The raids were conducted at premises linked to Baldev Sahu and Group of Companies Limited. The country liquor manufacturing and selling firm is run by the family of Dheeraj Sahu. Highlighting the raids, Prime Minister Narendra Modi posted photos of the large amount of currency notes which were recovered during the raids. Taking a tongue-in-cheek dig at the Congress, Prime Minister wrote, "The countrymen should look at the pile of notes and also listen to the quote-unquote honest speeches of the Congress leaders." IT personnel first raided the premises of Baldev Sahu companies on the 6th of December on allegations of tax evasion, from where they claim to have recovered 156 bags of cash. Simultaneous raids were then conducted in Bhubaneswar, Sundargarh, Sambalpur in Odisha and at a few places in Jharkhand. The IT department has said that the total seized amount is likely to go up as the counting process is still on.
लगातार जो भांडाफोड़ हुआ है उसके मुताबिक आप देख लीजिए कि इन्होंने पहले 200 तक की हिसाब चल रही थी, लेकिन अभी ईडी, आईटी, सीबीआई इन लोगों के जो कार्यक्रम बने उसमें इसको बिल्कुल टॉप सीक्रेट रखा गया ताकि ये बात आखिरी मिनट तक उन अफसरों को भी ना पता चले। एक भारी संख्या में अफसरों को इकट्ठा करके ये रेड की गई, टॉप सीक्रेसी मेंटेन की गई, जिसकी वजह से ये काम जो है उसको अंजाम मिल पाया। और इस में जो इनके प्रमुख कार्यालय हैं जो कि 30 किलोमीटर दूर बोलांगीर से था, वहाँ 200 करोड़ बरामद हुए। ये धीरज साहू जो हैं ये तीसरी बार के राज्यसभा के सांसद हैं कांग्रेस पार्टी से, 2 बार पहले चुनाव लड़ चुके हैं, दोनों बार हारे हैं। 2 बार हारे हुए व्यक्ति को 3 बार लगातार राज्यसभा का मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट बनाया गया और राहुल गांधी जी के काफी नजदीक हैं। और वो तो जाहिर होता है इस बात से कि सोनिया जी, राहुल जी, प्रियंका जी और मल्लिकार्जुन खड़गे सब ने चुप्पी साधी हुई है, मुंह में सबके दही जमा हुआ है। और यही कारण है कि भ्रष्टाचार को लगातार फैलाने का काम, generations after generations, the tradition of corruption has been kept alive.
The Congress MP is currently under lens as the Income Tax Department has seized close to 300 crore rupees in simultaneous raids that were conducted at 25 locations across Odisha and Jharkhand. Now, 5 days after unrelenting rains brought by cyclone Mishong submerged most of Chennai, wreaked its civic infrastructure and cut off power for millions of residents, large parts of the city's low-lying neighborhoods in the north and south remain inundated in chest-deep water due to fresh downpour. Heavy rain in Coimbatore results in waterlogging under Avinashi flyover. Commuters face trouble as few roads remain waterlogged in parts of Tirunelveli after heavy rainfall in the region. Now, rain also lashed in several parts of the city. These are the visuals from Chennai. Flooding had only begun to recede on Friday, with households still without electricity or essential supplies, when this fresh downpour has again hit the livelihoods. Schools and colleges at many areas continue to remain closed. The aftermath of cyclone Mishong, right on your screens, most of the Chennai is submerged. The authorities are on the job, but mind you, this is not the first time when Chennai is witnessing such a situation. Previously as well, in 2015, a similar situation was witnessed. It just exposes the city's shoddy infrastructure. The Aditya L1 spacecraft's, in fact, solar ultraviolet imaging telescope has achieved a milestone by capturing the first full disk images of the sun in the 200-400 nm wavelength range. Powered on November 20, 2023, and after a successful pre-commissioning phase, suit revealed unprecedented full disk representations of the sun's photosphere and chromosphere on 6th of December 2023. These images, taken with 11 different filters, offer pioneering insights into sunspots, plague and quiet sun regions. The suit observations promise to enhance our understanding of the dynamic solar atmosphere and its impact on Earth's climate. Right on your screens, that's ISRO, in fact, ISRO's tweet on platform X, previously Twitter. And this is what they write about the Aditya L1 mission. The suit payload captures full disk images of the sun in near ultraviolet wavelengths. The images include the first ever full disk representations of the sun in wavelengths ranging from 200 to 400 nm. They provide pioneering insights into the intricate details of the sun's photosphere and chromosphere. Switching our focus to a very important development now, the Supreme Court is set to deliver its verdict on the 11th of December in the case challenging the Union government's 2019 decision to repeal the special status of Jammu and Kashmir under Article 370 of the Constitution. The Constitution bench, led by Chief Justice of India D.Y. Chandrachud, had reserved the judgment on the 5th of December 2023 after an extensive 16-day hearing. The petitioners in the matter had challenged not only the abrogation of Article 370 but also the J&K Reorganization Act, which resulted in the bifurcation of the state into union territories of J&K and Ladakh. Let's now take a look at the key arguments presented during the hearings. Complete integration. The government argued that the abrogation was necessary to fully integrate Jammu and Kashmir into the Union of India. Talking about the economic perspective now, the government claimed that the valley had prospered in the past 4.5 years after the repeal of Article 370 August 2019. Return to statehood, the government stated that elections were due in Jammu and Kashmir, and once the situation returned to normal, it would revert to full statehood. Security improvement. The centre contended that the abrogation led to a significant reduction in terrorism, infiltration, stone pelting and casualties among security personnel. Now, talking about what are the arguments against brute majority, petitioners argued that the union used brute majority in the parliament and executive orders to divide a full-fledged state into union territories, an attack on federalism. Petitioners claim that the move was an attack on federalism and a fraud played on the constitution. Permanent character of Article 370, the petitioner argued that Article 370 had assumed a permanent character after the dissolution of the Jammu and Kashmir Constituent Assembly in 1957. Now, talking about the constitutionality challenge, the petitioners challenged the constitutionality of the procedure adopted to repeal Article 370 and the abolition of Jammu and Kashmir's statehood. Watch our special coverage of the SC judgment on Monday morning with the right voices and legal experts. Moving on now. On the eve of her 14th birthday, Asha Matre was waiting for a cake that her diplomat father had promised. Except Ravindra Matre never showed up. That's because nearly 40 years ago, Ravindra Matre was killed in cold blood in the UK. Multiple people were charged with the murder of Ravindra Matre, but the question remains, who was the man who pulled the trigger? 4 decades on, what is it that we've learned? News9 Plus has published a full-blown investigative piece on the killer of Ravindra Matre. Where is he now and the possible impact of his whereabouts? You can watch the full show on News9 Plus application. Meanwhile, here's a snippet. Take a look.
I have not been told any official version. I know whatever I saw. Nobody's contacted us to see whether we are alive or dead. Not a peep out of subsequent governments even after that.
He's the person who actually pulled the trigger, killing Mr. Matre.
Is he still alive?
49-year-old Birmingham-based
Indian diplomat vanishes.
On birthday,
Daughter waits.
Or missing father.
KLA claims responsibility.
Demands
Kashmiri separatists.
Maqbool Bhatt's release.
abducted diplomat.
Found murdered in Leicestershire.
After Indian diplomat Ravindra Matre's killing in 1984, 3 kidnappers were arrested by UK and Maqbool Bhatt was immediately hanged by India. But who was the person who actually pulled the trigger and killed Ravindra Matre? This has forever remained a mystery for the last 40 years. News9 Plus has been investigating this case for last several months to understand the chain of events. For the very first time in our investigation, we unmask the killer of Ravindra Matre. The killing was done by JKLF terrorist Masrat Iqbal Malik, who has been hiding in Kotli of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir since last 40 years. This has also been verified by both Hashim Qureshi and Shabir Chaudhry.
मुसरत इकबाल था, वो इस केस पे था इन्वॉल्व, लेकिन उसकी वो किराए के तौर पे ना अमानुल्लाह के घर में भी रहता था। उसने कहा कि अमान साहब, मुझे लगता है कि अब पुलिस हमें घेर रही है, हम क्या करें। अमानुल्लाह के अल्फाज थे, गोली मारो उसे और फेंक दो। मैंने कहा यार तुम किसको क्यों मार रहे हो उसको गोली? उधर एक तो मकबूल भट्ट को फांसी देंगे और फिर दूसरा ये बेगुनाह आदमी है, इसको क्यों मारोगे गोली?
I can say that order of the killing was given by Amanullah, but he felt at the time that police will be able to arrest the kidnappers, and that will disgrace the party, and those people will be in trouble, and maybe Lakh could be in trouble. This he confessed to me when he was in hospital. He had a lung cancer, and at that critical moment I asked him, I said, who ordered to kill him? He was vulnerable at the time, and he said to me, yes, I ordered it.
Stop searching, start streaming. Download the world's first news OTT, News9 Plus, ahead of the curve.
Let's now take a look at what's been happening on the Israel-Hamas war front.
The following content may contain visuals that are disturbing, graphic, or sensitive in nature. Viewer discretion is advised. This material is intended for mature audiences and may not be suitable for all viewers. Please exercise caution while watching, and if you find such content distressing, we recommend discontinuing viewing. This disclaimer is provided to ensure awareness and to prioritize viewer well-being.
The war between Israel and Hamas has entered its 64th day. Let's get you the latest update from the war front. US vetoes UNSC resolution on ceasefire in Gaza. Palestine slams US veto of UNSC resolution calling for an immediate humanitarian pause in Gaza. Israeli bombardment of the Gaza Strip continues. Dozens dead in Khan Yunis. Israel's military has killed 47 athletes during war. That is what Palestinian Olympics Committee has claimed. Israeli forces raid Nablus in north of West Bank. Food and water shortage situation is getting worse for Gazans. That is the latest coming in from the Israel-Hamas war on day 64.
It reiterates the Council's demand.
The Israeli military struck 450 Gaza targets in 24 hours on Friday, roughly double the figure it's typically reported since the end of the truce with Hamas. It marks a new expansion of the war, with the UN warning that Gaza is teetering on a complete societal collapse. Take a look.
The Israeli military appears to be sharply increasing its strikes in Gaza, marking a possible new expansion of the war. And with hospitals overrun and food running out, the UN is warning that Gaza teeters on the edge of a total societal collapse. This footage is said to show Israeli troops in the city of Khan Yunis. The Israeli military says it hit 450 targets in Gaza over 24 hours as of Friday. That's double what they've typically reported since the truce reached with Hamas fell apart last week. Elsewhere in the same city, Palestinians who've been forced from their homes into a tent city are telling Reuters journalists their fears. This man's wife is on dialysis but has had to reduce her treatments. We can be patient with hunger, he says, but how long can his wife wait to be treated? How long can his kids wait for something to drink? They keep saying, "Dad, I want to eat. Dad, I want to eat." He says they're down to just one meal a day. The vast majority of Gazans have been rendered homeless by the war. Meanwhile, in Israel, the human toll is also continuing to climb. This is the funeral for a 25-year-old Israeli soldier killed in the fighting, who was the son of a minister in Israel's war cabinet. As of Friday, about 100 Israeli soldiers have been reported killed. Hamas says the minister's son was killed by a bomb rigged to one of their tunnels. The militant group also reported Friday that a hostage was killed in a separate incident during a failed Israeli rescue attempt. The Israeli military declined to comment on what it called psychological warfare.
On the 8th of December, the Israeli army unveiled footage depicting combat in Shejia and a tunnel shaft as part of intensified strikes on the Gaza Strip. The expanded phase of the conflict targeted various areas, resulting in a significant number of casualties. The released videos feature a purported school compound and a debris obstructing a tunnel entrance. Israel has intensified its ground attack on Gaza as it vowed to stop at nothing less than eradicating Hamas. But eradicating Hamas, there are now in fact visuals coming in from Shejia in Gaza, where the Israeli army unveiled footage depicting combat and a tunnel shaft as part of intensified strikes on the Gaza Strip. Israel has been continuing with its ground ops since the 7th of October. That's when Hamas launched a deadly attack on southern Israel, killing about 1,200 Israelis and taking about 240 as hostages. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to retaliate and eradicate Hamas. Since then, Israel has been carrying out airstrikes and has also now intensified its ground attack on Gaza. There are various schools, various hospitals where Israel claims Hamas has taken shelter and is operating from under the base. Amid Israel's ongoing military offensive in Gaza, civilians are repeatedly urged to relocate to a humanitarian zone smaller than London's Heathrow Airport. Al-Mawasi, a narrow strip by the Mediterranean Sea, primarily comprises sandy dunes and agricultural land. The Israel Defense Forces designates an 8.5 square kilometer zone as safe, but changing instructions and limited internet access complicate locating secure areas. Evacuation directives within Al-Mawasi have shifted, creating confusion for residents unsure about the designated safety zones and the evolving IDF messaging. The IDF had asked the people of Gaza to relocate to south, but the IDF continues to bomb even the south of the Gaza Strip as well. And now people there failing to understand which is the safe zone, where should they go, and where can they just ensure that they live for another day. Their children are safe, their families are safe. The situation in Gaza is catastrophic. That is what the UN has also said. Now, civilians have been repeatedly urged to relocate to humanitarian zones which are smaller than London's Heathrow Airport. The United States on Friday vetoed a proposed United Nations Security Council demand for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in the war between Israel and Palestinian terrorist group Hamas in Gaza, diplomatically isolating Washington as it shields its ally. 13 other members voted in favor of a brief draft resolution put forward by the United Arab Emirates, while Britain abstained. The vote came after UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres made a rare move on Wednesday to formally warn the 15-member council of a global threat from the 2-month-long war. The United States and Israel opposes a ceasefire because they believe it would only benefit Hamas.
The United States engaged in good faith on this text. We propose language with an eye toward a constructive resolution that would have reinforced the life-saving diplomacy we have undertaken since October 7, increased opportunities for humanitarian aid to enter Gaza, encouraged the release of hostages and the resumption of humanitarian pauses, and laid a foundation for a durable peace. Unfortunately, nearly all of our recommendations were ignored, and the result of this rush process was an imbalanced resolution that was divorced from reality, that would not move the needle forward on the ground in any concrete way. And so, we regretfully could not support it.
In Gaza, an unprecedented surge in infectious diseases has been reported as displaced Palestinians seek refuge in crowded shelters. The influx is exacerbating the strain on healthcare facilities and professionals already overwhelmed by the ongoing Israeli offensive.
Increasing numbers of displaced Palestinians are falling victim to deadly infections. And there are fears that hepatitis, diarrhea and respiratory illnesses could cause more deaths than bombs and missiles. Here in the south of the Gaza Strip, Dina Abu Taubsh takes her daughter to a clinic in Khan Yunis.
My daughter is suffering from fever, cough and cold. We were displaced to these schools, and there are many children here. The children have got infections because of overcrowding. The situation is difficult for my daughter, but also for other children.
But it's not only the health infrastructure that is overwhelmed. Other critical infrastructure is also lacking, and there's not enough drinkable water or food. Many Gazans have resorted to eating just one meal a day, prioritising children. As more families flee the conflict, poor sanitation is becoming widespread across the besieged strip, causing hygiene-related diseases such as lice infestation and scabies, making it harder for health authorities to control disease outbreaks.
At present, there's no way of controlling the spread of infection, especially with the war continuing. There's a lack of water suitable for human consumption, along with a shortage of energy and electricity to operate generators. The overcrowding and transfer of people to shelters, and the failure to provide personal supplies to limit the spread of diseases.
Health organisations have repeatedly sounded the alarm that the situation is becoming deadlier by the day. Dina's had to wait for hours to buy essentials like medicine for her sick daughter. About 1.8 million Gazans are now displaced, and hopes that the situation could improve are dwindling.
While the Israel-Hamas war is causing immense humanitarian tragedy, there are also some stories where people from different sides of the spectrum come together to give out the message of peace. Israeli entrepreneur Osben David and his Palestinian business partner Jalil Debit run a restaurant together in Berlin. They run the restaurant with a firm belief that shared food and an eating culture can create friendship and overcome preconceived differences. Take a look at this report.
And Linsen, we make it also with Jalil. A smiley.
Hi Jalil, nice to meet you.
Our vision is to show the people that Palestinian and Israeli or people from different background can work together and be really good friends.
Sweet potato supposed to be there. Each one has his own way to make hummus, and we can learn from the hummus and from the experience of sharing instead of fighting on something, where we keep and create. We have the same idea of how family structure will be like. We have the same idea about a lot of things that we sharing food that we are fighting when we could share together. So many things, so many visions, that we share together. And I think that this is the place where it's remind you, and the future, it will come.
Hamas official Izzat el-Reshik accused Israeli forces of a heinous crime against innocent civilians after images circulated on social media showing detained Palestinian men stripped to their underwear in Gaza. Some Palestinians said they recognized relatives in the images and denied they had links to Hamas or any other group. The International Committee of the Red Cross expressed concern over the images, emphasizing the need to treat detainees with humanity and dignity in light with international humanitarian law.
Talking about individuals who are apprehended in Jabalia and Shaja'iyah, Hamas strongholds and centers of gravity. We're talking about military-aged men who were discovered in areas that civilians were supposed to have evacuated weeks ago. We've been calling for an evacuation of those Hamas strongholds in order to locate the Hamas October 7th monsters with minimal harm to civilians. Now, those individuals will be questioned, and we will work out who indeed was a Hamas terrorist and who is not.
Now, he also, who's in exile, called on international human rights organizations to intervene for the men's release. The latest developments in the legal proceedings involving former President Donald Trump in a New York court on Friday. An accounting expert who defended Trump in a $250 million fraud case revealed that he has, accumulated nearly $9 lakh in fees for his testimony. New York University Stern School of Business research professor testified on Thursday, asserting that he found no evidence here of concealment in his review of financial statements central to the case. Bartow, a prominent accounting expert, disclosed that he was paid $1,350 per hour during a deposition in July. In court, he mentioned having worked approximately 650 hours on the case, totaling $8,77,500. The prosecution's expert witness reportedly received around $3,50,000 for his testimony. Under questioning by lawyers for New York's Attorney General, Bartow revealed that the payments came from the Trump Organization and the former president's Political Action Committee, Save America. The charges against Trump, his older sons and company executives allege the exaggeration of assets values to secure more favorable loans, which they vehemently deny. After Bartow's testimony on Thursday, Trump asserted that the expert found absolutely no accounting fraud of any kind. Trump is set to testify for the second time on Monday, with Bartow returning to the stand on Tuesday. European Union negotiators achieved a landmark agreement on the world's inaugural comprehensive regulations for artificial intelligence. The breakthrough deal marks a pivotal moment in the legal oversight of technologies, particularly those employed in popular generative AI services like ChatGPT, which promise a transform daily life but have raised concerns about potential risks to humanity. Representatives from the European Parliament and the EU's 27 member nations successfully navigated significant differences on contentious issues, including generative AI and the implementation of facial recognition surveillance by law enforcement. This consensus resulted in the signing of a preliminary political accord known as the Artificial Intelligence Act. European Commissioner celebrated the achievement with a tweet just before midnight, proudly declaring the EU as the first continent to establish explicit guidelines for the use of AI. In a tragic incident, mass deaths of elephant seals have been reported in the Antarctic as bird flu reaches the snow-clad region. With hundreds of elephant seals found dead in the region, scientists and researchers have warned that one of the largest ecological disasters of modern times could be on its way if the highly contagious virus spreads among the penguin populations. The bird flu virus was first reported among the brown skua birds on the bird island located off the coast of South Georgia. Since the first few cases, researchers have reported mass deaths of elephant seals, fur seals, kelp gulls at several other sites as well. There are fortunately no recorded cases yet on the Antarctic mainland, which is home to one of the most unique and isolated ecosystems. But scientists have warned that the virus is expected to reach the mainland soon as birds continue to move. Scientists have expressed worry, especially for the penguin population of the region. They say that as the breeding season is beginning, penguins are starting to cluster together, and if the virus breaches the population, it will spread at a fast pace. Previous outbreaks of the bird flu in South Africa, Chile and Argentina have shown that penguins remain highly susceptible to the disease. The strain spreading in Antarctica is clade 2.3.4.4b, which has previously decimated bird populations across the UK, Europe, South Africa and the Americas. Seabird colonies in these regions have experienced losses of up to 50 to 60% of the population. A huge clam that was on the verge of extinction has made a comeback with a surge in numbers in waters of Croatia. Now, the sighting brings hope of a revival of the species. Our next report tells you more.
This huge clam is back from the brink of extinction. It had fallen victim to a deadly pathogen in the Mediterranean in recent years, with only around 10 being known to scientists in Croatia. Now, marine biologists say they've seen a surge in numbers. This is Croatia's Istria Peninsula. It's home to the clams, which are known as the noble penned shell, or Pinna nobilis. The giant mollusks can grow up to 4 feet wide. They play an important role filtering seawater and allowing other organisms to flourish. But around 2016, they started dying out as a pathogen spread. Sandro Dojmovic works with a group that manages Istria's protected areas and has been keeping tabs on the clams.
This was alive recently. Some unfortunately died, but we found new, small, but likely alive ones, probably from this year.
Dojmovic says some clams have been spotted around Spain and Italy. A local diver found 20 of them near Croatia last year. That was a big deal.
In the entire Adriatic on the Croatian side, until now, we knew about 10 to 15 living Pinna nobilis. The problem is that they are mostly individual Pinna nobilis, and it cannot reproduce itself. This finding of over 20 in one place is even more significant because they can probably reproduce here. And that is the next step for us to determine. Are they infected? Are they sick? Can they reproduce? And are there even more of them in the area?
This year, biologists managed to collect about 100 young specimens. They live in this aquarium about 30 miles away. We keep them here to provide them with the cleanest possible environment, says biologist Nikolina Primate. That means filtered water, free of parasites. Scientists say they hope the clams could one day return to the sea. It's too early to say what caused the clams to bounce back, but Croatia's government is funding research to find out.
Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is standing for a third term in office. With the war in Gaza having distracted voters from Egypt's growing economic hardships, Al-Sisi's win seems to be a foregone conclusion. This report tells you more about the Egyptian presidential elections. Well, in fact, we seem to be facing some technical difficulty. We'll get back to you with that report. For now, Vladimir Putin has announced his candidature for the 2024 presidential elections, scheduled to take place on the 17th of March. A win which is all but certain would allow Putin a fifth term in office and give him another 6 years as he looks to prolong his grip on Russia. Take a look.
Russian President Vladimir Putin on Friday told soldiers who had fought in Ukraine that he would run for a fifth term in the 2024 election. It's a move that would allow the former KGB spy to stay in power until at least 2030. Putin was handed the presidency by Boris Yeltsin in 1999 and has already served as president for longer than any other ruler of Russia since Joseph Stalin. He confirmed his bid for re-election while meeting with war veterans to award them Russia's highest military honor.
I will not hide that I have had different thoughts at different times, but it's now time to make a decision. You are right. It is such a time when a decision needs to be made. I will run for the position of President of the Russian Federation.
For Putin, the election, which will take place in March 2024, is a formality. The 71-year-old has no discernible successor, and with the support of the state-run media, and almost no mainstream public dissent, he is certain to win. On the streets of Moscow, support broadly favoured the incumbent.
I think that there is no better candidate than Vladimir Putin. I just can't imagine one. I will vote only for him.
In general, I approve. Hopefully, he has got enough health for this. There is a lot of negativity coming his way from different directions, but I believe that Russia needs him. I consider myself to be a patriot, a monarchist, to a certain extent, so I think it is necessary.
Opposition politicians say a handful of other unthreatening candidates will be put up to run against Putin and lose, in what they say has become a carefully stage-managed imitation of democracy. Despite the lack of competition, Putin faces the most serious set of challenges of any Kremlin leader since Mikhail Gorbachev grappled with the crumbling Soviet Union more than 3 decades ago. The war in Ukraine triggered the biggest confrontation with the West since the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis. The West casts Putin as a war criminal and a dictator who has led Russia into an imperial-style land grab in Ukraine. Subsequent sanctions have delivered the biggest external shock to the Russian economy for decades. And Putin also faced a failed mutiny by Russia's most powerful mercenary, Yevgeny Prigozhin, in June. Prigozhin was killed in a plane crash 2 months to the day after the mutiny.
Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is standing for a third term in office. With the war in Gaza having distracted voters from Egypt's growing economic hardships, al-Sisi win seems to be a foregone conclusion. Take a look.
Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is poised to win 6 more years in power, a result that isn't in doubt. That's despite growing despair about soaring prices, which have stirred criticism of Sisi's record on the economy and his crackdowns on dissent. In power for close to a decade, the former army chief presents himself as a guarantor of stability in a volatile neighbourhood. 2 wars on Egypt's borders, in Gaza and Sudan, have hardly hurt that image. Sisi announced his campaign for the December 10th to 12th election would be curtailed to save funds for aid to Gaza, though giant posters of his face are everywhere. If only he'd been content with the 10 years, says Mohammed Anwar Sadat, a moderate opposition figure and former member of parliament.
Before the events of Gaza, the pressure on economic and living conditions, as well as other issues, were questioned by people. and had created a state of anger against President Sisi and big reservations about his policies. Since the beginning of the events in Gaza, there has been a state of calm and tranquility in the minds of many, who started to feel it was better if the current president continues.
Sisi has overseen a crackdown since leading the 2013 ouster of Egypt's first democratically elected president, Mohamed Morsi of the Muslim Brotherhood. Sisi and the military establishment are tight, while the Brotherhood has been driven underground or abroad. The constitution was amended in 2019 to let Sisi stand for a third time, and it extended the presidential term to 6 years from 4. Sisi was declared winner with 97% of the vote in the previous 2 elections. But Egyptian authorities seem wary of a public backlash this time, so 3 candidates have qualified to stand, all of them low profile and muted in their criticism. This is Medhat Az-Zahed, head of the Socialist Popular Alliance Party, which is boycotting the vote.
They needed a degree of competition because of pressure concerning freedoms and human rights in Egypt and pent-up popular frustrations. So there was an attempt to release these frustrations through peaceful means, so long as the ceiling is defined.
A national dialogue earlier this year allowed the airing of a few critical views, and some prisoners were pardoned. But arrests have continued. Parliament is dominated by Sisi's supporters, and his allies control the media. A campaign by leftist politician Ahmed al-Tantawi, the most prominent potential opposition candidate, briefly tapped into pent-up discontent. But he dropped out of the race, citing pressure from pro-government forces. He's now facing a judicial case on allegations of using illicit means to collect endorsements. Sisi's campaign office did not respond to requests for comment.
The current president can get at most 1% of the votes out of real support, and I expect he can get 10% of votes using the same ways he used to gather endorsements. But as for the sweeping majority of the Egyptian people, they were waiting for a serious candidate.
Fears about the economy have not gone away. The state has crowded out the private sector. Egypt's debts have ballooned after a spending spree on mega projects like a new capital east of Cairo. And prices have rocketed for ordinary Egyptians, like Ahmed Khudair, who had this message for Sisi.
We ask him to lower the prices a bit for people to afford them, because families have 5 or 6 members, so lowering the prices would help people and help them live. I call on people before anything, before focusing on prices, to go vote for the President of the nation, because this way he will help people. He's already helping people.
On that note, it's a wrap on this edition of The Bulletin. Thank you very much for watching. You have a blessed day ahead. This is me, Neha, signing off.